Yeah,
it does.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not into it. I probably won't even give it much attention at all. All right, so that brings us now to what I would say is the crown jewel of patch 4.1. One of the
small crown jewel.
One of the highlights of 4.1, and maybe one of the highlights of all of the Alliance raids, period. Because I do think that of the Alliance raids that we've seen, this has been one of the most unique and inventive, mechanically sound and challenging Alliance raids that we've ever seen in FF14. And of course, I'm talking about Rabinaster.
Right. Yeah. Well, was it better than Crystal Tower?
Well,
absolutely.
I was going to say yes, in retrospect, because Crystal Tower being the first one wasn't bad.
No, I don't mean the whole of Crystal Tower. I mean the first leg of Crystal Tower.
Labyrinth of the Ancients.
Labyrinth of the Ancients.
I really liked Labyrinth.
Was it better than Void Ark?
Yeah,
absolutely.
By a lot. Yeah. And I think that they've definitely learned a lot about how to make that presentation better as time goes on.
Mm-hmm. I mean, to be fair, though, they also brought in outside battle developers and story writers. So,
well, but they, as we've said, well, all right. As far as the battle goes, right? They've been doing well all expansion, right? But you're right. I'm sure bringing in a battle designer probably didn't hurt any. But the fact that they also brought in a story designer, that probably explains why this
story is better than the MSQ.
I was actually going to go ahead and compare this to what we had with Omega, because they're kind of dealing with the same thing, right? Taking subject matter from another game and using it here, right? We had a lot of bad, terrible, negative things to say about Omega.
Yep.
They basically did the complete opposite, in my eyes, with the Ivalice raid.
Yeah.
Well, that's because they're actually making Ivalice part of the Garlemald continent and country.
Right, which is absolutely the correct way to handle that.
Okay, let's start there. Why don't we start there? Because, we had theorized that because we've now got Omega, which is just stories brought to life, stories that a super powerful machine are bringing to life that you have to
and blackmails you into doing.
Or exactly. It's like this doomsday machine is going, fight these imaginary things,
and then tournament arc.
And if you don't, but if you don't, I have enough power to destroy all that you love and all the people in the world.
Right.
So blackmailing you to fighting my things.
Which led a lot of us to believe that this Ivalice raid was going to take place in Ivalice as we knew it from Final Fantasy Tactics and FF12.
Right. The idea was, how are they going to take us there? Because remember, they also made a big deal out of the whole Prima Vista Zodiac Brave story.
Yep,
right.
Yes. And the fact that they said this was going to be canon to Ivalice, we're like, okay, then how are they going to move
but
Ivalice?
not in the way you guys think it is.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So, what they did was they basically have...
Oh my God, real quick, I'm sorry.
Okay, all right.
That whole "not the way you think it is," that phrase pisses me off so much. Because remember the first time we heard that phrase was with the gun class. And they said, it's not what you think it is. It ended up being a DPS gun-wielding class.
Right.
And we all thought, oh, maybe it's a chemist. Maybe it's... What I don't know what anyone else
Well, nobody guessed machinist, so it's not what we thought it was.
We thought it was going to be a DPS. And guess what? It was a fucking DPS.
Yeah. So you think he's using... It's not what you think it is?
I just hate that phrase now, because whatever I think it is, that's what it's going to fucking be.
Well, we can't all be Juxtadamus.
Yeah, that's right.
Well...
That is your cross to bear.
Suck my dick, then. I predict that. Thunder rolls. Boom.
Okay.
Thunder rolls. Bloom.
No, boom, not bloom. I don't know
where... You said bloom.
I don't know where we're going. Orlando.
No one knows where you're going, Juxta. Anyway, So Ivalice definitively has been, I think, placed inside of Eorzea, right?
Yeah.
So Ivalice as we know it, even.
As we know it, right. Because there's a couple of things, and there's a couple of things that it confirms from even going back to Tactics, right? So there's a couple of layers here that we have
there's actually a lot to unpack.
We have to peel back. So the first is that it seems as if Eorzea is the same world that FF12 took place in, just a huge span of time later.
Thousands of years.
Yes, long time after.
Which leads me to kind of ask, like, we know broad stroke history about Eorzea, specifically surrounding a lot of the calamities. And it kind of makes me wonder, the world of FF12 that we knew, where was that in terms of the eras that we've been able to define for Eorzea?
Well, one of the things to keep in mind is that Eorzea is just the Four Kingdoms. The planet as a whole is Hydaelyn.
Hydaelyn, right. Yeah,
and
that's
now
true.
It's kind of confirmed because of this, at least within the confines of FF14, that Ivalice was never a world or a planet, but a kingdom or a
nation.
A nation, yeah, exactly, or even just like a continent or something.
Right. So we do know that where we go, that is called Ivalice, where we go, the city known as Rabanastre, and the reason that I caveat it like that is because, as other people have pointed out, when we go to Koga, it is in name only, right?
Doma.
Like it's or Doma. Sorry, sorry. When we go to Doma, it's in name only, right? Like it is
originally from FF2,
right?
I mean, these are all just callbacks.
6.
Like there's been so many callbacks
from
in name
4,
only.
right? Like
Final Fantasy VI, it was Doma. Thank you.
Okay, but well, it's what they've done with all the reference. I mean, Kryl from FF3, Matoya from FF4.
Yeah, they're all just Easter eggs,
just
little fun
in names.
throwbacks.
But the thing
Fucking
is,
pleb, I hate
but
you.
the thing is, though, is that I don't know that is necessarily the case of what is going on with Ivalice, because it seems more distinctly and intrinsically linked in terms of like, yes, this is the same world.
Absolutely, and I think it
I mean,
definitely
it definitely is. They brought in the same story developer and then said this is canon to Ivalice's story. So I think 100% we can say this is the same exact Ivalice.
And it makes sense that it's this speck of land that within Garlemald, effectively, and
Right.
the Garleans at one point wiped out Rabanastre and took over. And like go back, it's fun too. I just looked up a picture of what Judge Geese looks like.
Sure,
Looks like
his
Garleans.
helmet. He looks like a Garlean.
He looks like a
Absolutely.
Garlean.
He looks exactly
100%.
like a Garlean.
Yeah, I mean, that was the first thing when this game first came out and we saw the judges and I was like, wait, why are the FF12 characters judges in this? And we're like, oh, wait, these are Garland. What's the difference? I mean, it makes a lot of sense why
it
they're
does.
based off of the same armor scheme.
Sure.
Oh, wait, hold on. Apparently, Yatsumi Matsuno made a tweet saying Return to Ivalice is not a post-Final Fantasy Tactics story. Like what was said in the previous 14-hour broadcast, it's a concept of what we were... Of what if we were to bring Ivalice into a theme park games like Final Fantasy XIV is not a tactics sequel or whatsoever.
Yeah, so this is actually the point that I wanted to make in regards to things like Doma or Matoya in Kryl, right? Those are things where they exist as their sort of own entity within FF14, in absolutely name only. But they talk about, like in the cutscene, they actually reference the War of the Lions as something that actually happened. They actually use, how the fuck do you pronounce Ram's last name? Beluv or whatever?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, whatever. Like
Ramsby?
they basically say that you are descendant of that bloodline. So while according to the creator of Tactics in 12, Eorzea may not exist within their timeline, I honestly think now that timeline still exists within like the 14.
Was that tweet from the guy who actually they had brought in to work on?
Yeah, that Matsuno.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that it wasn't someone else who was attached to Tactics in 12 that they didn't bring in for this, because that would have been an easy way for them to go, oh, well, no, of course that's not canon.
Well, I mean, it kind of makes sense. Like, you can use the stories, though, is that all of Ivalice's history is canon to Eorzea, but Eorzea is not necessarily canon to Ivalice when you
That's right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right, Eorzea is one possible outcome of everything, whereas... But anything that happened in Tactics and 12,
guess what?
It fits in the Eorzean timeline.
Still not as convoluted as the Flash.
Well, but here's the thing, though. Here's the thing: is that for as much of Ivalice as we've seen throughout Tactics and throughout 12, it has always been a partial piece of land.
Yes.
It's never actually, like, when you got the ability to fast travel, you never got an airship that you could fly around the entirety of the world as you could in previous Final Fantasies, right?
Yeah.
Like, you got to pick a place to go to, and you fast traveled there.
Yep. In
like
fact, if you look
It's
up,
been a long time since I played 12, so please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're absolutely correct. In fact, if you go and look up, like, for example, the biggest map that it shows during FF FF12, it shows what were the name of them? Like Dalmasca, Nabadia, and then it shows I think Rosaria, and I forget the other one, but basically it just looks like two giant chunks of land that kind of meet in the middle.
Sure.
It could absolutely be a huge, giant, expansive world outside of that.
And that's it. Like, the point is that unlike, 8 or 9, where you have a full globe you can cycle
7.
around. Or 7. Sure. I guess.
Or
too.
6.
7 also.
I mean,
5,
any
4,
of the other ones before
3,
that, yeah.
2.
We get it.
1.
We get it.
He went all the way down to 2. I'm like, you got to finish.
Cerberus, Dirge of.
I don't know. I don't know if you got a world map on that.
No.
Well, I mean, technically, because 7 had a world map.
Shut up, fucker.
By
oh
proxy.
my God, I fucking hate you. Shut up. Yeah. Shut up. Anyway, I do think that this is a pretty definitive link. I'm going to be interested to see when we do actually get the continent of Garlemald unveiled. It's entirely possible that we might be kind of more familiar with this piece of land than we know.
There should actually, within just, creation, like the world, because we've seen this giant map that just has, like, clouds on it, right?
Right.
Okay, Square Enix wouldn't have just made a map with clouds. They had the world map designed and then put clouds on it.
Right.
So
there's something underneath there.
Someone needs to sneak into Square Enix HQ and find us a copy of that map.
They just need to go in with a pencil and with an eraser and just erase the clouds.
But then you erase the stuff underneath.
You can actually walk
shit.
through the lobby, but when you go to where the employees are, there's a desk and a bunch of people sitting there. You'd never be able to sneak through. There's big glass windows. And
obviously, if
Believe
you're a
me, I
ninja,
really
you can be
wanted to.
invisible.
I really wanted to.
Gotta get some prism powder. You could have gotten through.
I mean, we've driven past the Square Enix headquarters in California before.
I played beer pong with the head GM.
We mooned it when we were on the highway.
We did actually all flip it off.
Yeah,
that actually did happen.
We pissed off the guy in the pickup truck next to us who followed us for like 3 miles. That was fun.
It happened.
Good times.
I know.
I miss E3.
I just didn't know how to explain to the guy we weren't trying to moon you. We were trying to give Square Enix the turkey neck, but he didn't get it.
No, well, I got to be honest with you. Whether we were trying to moon him or moon Square Enix, he turned right and saw some unfortunate things.
That's right. Yeah.
I can understand why he was mad.
Yeah, he made eye contact with my butthole.
Well, was he mad or was he kind of
wink?
intrigued?
Jesus.
He wasn't intrigued. I don't think he was intrigued.
I don't think so.
That's not the word I would use for it.
I have a question for Juxta. Overall, do you like the execution of the Ivalice raid and story? Because
yeah, I think so.
Because going into it, you were kind of salty.
Well, yeah, I was also on stream and I was trying to create a rise for everyone because I'm an entertainer.
Oh, you were doing
I'm
that on
an entertainer, Kahlo.
Okay.
Something you would never understand.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was doing it for the stream's benefit.
Oh, of course.
You're welcome,
he was.
stream.
Was very upset because Ramza and Alma acted nothing like how they acted in the game. Their characters were so off.
Yeah. I wonder why that is.
Well, it's because they're two different people.
Oh, really? Did they say that towards the end of the scenario?
Yeah.
Yeah? That's what I thought.
They're descendants from Aura and Duranai, and he's their father's a giant weeb who just names his kids after
historical figures.
Historical figures of yore.
I actually like that explanation more.
Okay, well then could you explain why Bagammon is Bagammon?
No.
Is he named after the Bagammon of yore?
No, because I think we murder him, right?
I don't know.
I mean, we murdered him in FF12, but now here he is back again. Is it his great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson?
Oh, well, we didn't actually technically murder him in 12 because we're not sure what events actually happened in 12 in 14. In 14-12.
I think we are allowed to infer that what happened in 12 does happen in 14-12.
Yeah.
Well, okay, hold on. Who's to say that's not just the John of the bongo world? It's like, oh, here's Bagammon Smith, and here's Bagammon Johnson, and Bagammon all up in your Bagammon mouth.
I love that idea. I love that Bagammon is the most common name that they have.
Bagammon Doe. Great.
Bagammon Doe.
All right, sure.
God damn.
Sure, let's go with that.
Let's Bagammon go with it.
No.
So, okay, all right. So it starts you off at Rabanastre, the destroyed remnants of Rabanastre, very close to what I remember from FF12.
Yep, and the reason that Rabanastre, a.k.a. Damaska, is destroyed is because the Garleans invaded and took that shit over.
That's right.
We're like, wow, look at these fuckers.
So,
The judges won after a while, I guess.
That's actually, I think, the coolest sort of bit that we get to infer. Well, not even infer, it's straight out
tell you.
said. But yeah, the fact that we actually go into Garlean-controlled territory.
And does that mean that the Marquis failed?
But this is something that
the Marquis was a bad guy, so I don't think he failed.
Well, so the Marquis succeeded then.
No, wait.
I don't remember anything about 12 except for the fact that
Garlemald took over both of them.
Except for the fact that when they said Marquis, I wanted to fucking stab my eyes out.
Which didn't we find out apparently certain parts of England or the UK do say it that way.
You would have to stab out your ears, not your eyes.
He wanted to stab his eyes out. He was that mad about it.
Yeah, that's right.
It defies all logic.
That's right.
But this is one of the things when we were talking before Stormblood had launched, and I said, like, one of my profound hopes for Stormblood is that we will at some point get to incur into Garlean territory. This wasn't what I had in mind, but it does meet one of my hopes.
Yeah. That is. I do have to admit that is a pretty cool aspect. The fact that they say very plainly that you are in Garlean territory.
This is Garlemald occupied territory.
Right.
Yeah.
And that there is no space on the wider map that we can directly point to where this would be.
Exactly. And this
not to say that it's not there, though, and I think that was our big concern, was that it's not going to be there.
I mean, they kind of said it was like a forgotten corner of Garlemald territory.
Yeah, well, and that's fine.
Because
my
the
point
desert
is, unlike,
kind of washed over it and has kind of regrown, like...
But unlike Doma, which was very much its own place that Garleans owned, they have owned this area for so long that no one sees like, oh, that's Rabanastre, that's Ivalice territory.
Right.
No, that's just Garlean territory.
Yeah, that's Garlean territory.
They've owned it that long.
Yeah. I don't know. I do think that that's pretty cool. We also get to see some Bonga in there as well, and that's also kind of interesting.
Confirm that Vieira are in.
Yeah, so I've got to say, I feel like if the Bonga are still around, the Vieira
and the
should
Sikh
still be around.
I mean, it's entirely possible because weren't the Vieira
the bunny ladies?
Yeah, I know who they were, but I mean, like they were
bunnies.
They're basically Mikote with,
but they were an
ears.
insular society that shunned outsiders, which means that they would have been among the first on the Garlean chopping block. Like the Garleans would have either quickly subjugated them for a personal harem, or they would have just nuked them off the planet. And
honestly,
so we get to free the
I feel
sex
like
slaves.
it might have had the Ara and Reunion, that whole area as in step treatment, where they were kind of their own insular society, so Garlemald just kind of left them alone. But I feel like as time went on and eventually like the calamities happened at whatever point and the desert started to grow, like just kind of fall in over top, I feel like eventually they probably would have just...
They were a shrinking society even in
forest,
12. Yeah.
But also remember, like someone pointed out in the chat here that that Mughals technically, we thought were extinct, and we found a whole bunch of them, up in the fucking churning mists or whatever. And didn't the Vieira have like magics that made it almost impossible to find the Vieira cities unless
shrouded magic.
Yeah, the shrouded magic. So you're right. I think that the Garleans, if they could, would definitely have wiped them off the face of the earth or subjugated them. But
our sex bunnies are safe.
There could still be a pocket somewhere that we discover later.
I'll put something in her pocket.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So you have been playing a Catboy now for years. And like, what? It's Bunny Girl that is gonna put you over the edge.
Male Bunny Girl. Oh yeah.
What happens if the Bunny Girl gets the Playboy outfit?
What the
one that already has bunny ears?
Yeah. Does she get 4 ears now?
Does she get 4 ears?
Well, yeah.
Yes.
So,
or are they like sleeves that go over her ears?
Actually, that would probably make a lot more sense. No, her real Bunny Girl ears are really big. They wouldn't fit in the
Listen.
Fake bunny ear.
Listen. So. I do think that this is that there are some very cool aspects here, and I do think that eventually, we could see Vieira. We could see probably not characters that we know from 12.
But that's what I want to bring up here is that they did go so far as to have like the main guy you're trying to save is like a real big history buff, and he knows the real history of Ramza and the War of the Lions and how the history has been faded from the books, and he wants to keep history alive, and he's such a big history geek that he named his kids Ramza and whatever the fuck the girl's name is. Alma, and that they look exactly like the original characters because that's totally how DNA works, right?
Except the original characters didn't have noses.
Well, when you get named something, you do start to look like it.
All right. Plus, there is a certain...
Even if they're descended, the chances of them looking exactly
they're not
like
descended.
those characters...
Nika.
They're not. They're descended from a different bloodline, but
there's still a certain suspension of disbelief that we have to agree to, being that this is a video game. Okay. What I'd like to bring up is before you actually go to the raid, when you're talking to people on the ship, I think it's Sid or maybe it was Ramza mentions that because of the Doman Rebellion and because of the Alamegan Rebellion, that this has given other places a chance to start to rise up, and they specifically mentioned the Dalmascan Rebellion. So the Dalmascans haven't just been like completely wiped off the map somewhere. So one of my big questions after this was, all right, we saved the guy because Ramza Ullman the father, they're actually Garleans.
Right. Yes,
right?
They are.
Right.
Yes.
So, like you said, they wanted to go to Rabanastre to uncover this truth or, these other heroes through history and whatnot. And I was like, well, where the fuck are we supposed to be going after this? Like we rescue the dad, now what? And if there's actually a Dalmascan rebellion out there, that would be a way to now introduce possibly FF12 characters.
Yeah, because they did say, it was Alphinaud that said that, right? He said,
Alphinaud?
That, or what? No, or was it Ramza?
Ramza.
Somebody. Was Ramza? They said that after hearing about, I thought it was Alphinaud, after hearing about the rebellions of Doma and Almigo,
yes.
Then now Dalmasca is rising up.
Yep. Yeah, well, a lot of places are because wasn't Hien? Hien was like, we need to go on the offensive. I'm sending, ninjas to different parts of the world to start spurring more uprisings.
Oh, yeah, he did say that, didn't he?
Yep.
Which I think conceptually is really cool. Like, it's the first time that there has been, a true threat to Garlean control. Like, they have owned so much of this continent for so long.
You can say probably the world.
You say that now, but when we go into 5.0 with the tagline "Liberate Garlemald," and now we're just gonna go through the whole liberation scenario again, I think you'll be singing a different tune.
I don't know that I look at it as us liberating anymore. Like, we liberated Doma, absolutely. That's what Authored was.
Sure.
But I think what it's gonna be more of like the war is on. We're invading Garlemald in 5.0.
Oh, you guys. No. When
So
we go up against the big bad that we've been staring down for 5 expansions, that's when the bigger threat comes, and we have to team up with them to take it down.
It's Dragon Ball Z syndrome. That's how it always works.
If it follows
the big guy's so
rules.
strong, you can't beat him. Then you get strong enough to beat him. Then a bigger guy comes along, and you can't beat him. Then you get strong enough. Then a bigger guy. Yeah.
Yep, we're gonna get our Burning Legion in 5.0.
Oh no! Why do you got to say things like that? Because it's probably true.
Gaius,
because I know it hurts you.
Hashtag Gaius was right.
Yep.
All right. So after we get about halfway through the raid, we drop down and we go from a distinctly FF12 location to
it's the
now
same zone.
a tactics location.
And what's really interesting
the
about
waterways
this,
were the first level of FF12.
Well, no,
where you
but,
meet Ash.
But when you get further down, you come to the city of Lazalia, right? Because Rabanastre is like the capital, I think, of Dalmasca, but Lazalia is the capital of
the old capital, the ruined capital of Ivalice.
Of actual Ivalice, yeah, which is underneath it. So that was
covered by the desert.
Yeah, that was really, really cool. Can we also take just a moment to talk about how excited everyone got when you go down to the Garam Synth waterway and it like separates you into parties? Like, oh, we're gonna do an Atomos fight. That was really cool of you, Square Enix, to actually separate the parties so you ain't gotta count on someone to fuck it up. Good job. And then all we did was flip some fucking switches.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, our entire stream was so exciting. Like, yeah, awesome. Then when we're all sitting around, like, staring at each other, waiting for the last part to get to the switch, we're like, it's slowly, like, dawning on us. And we're like,
this is all there is.
This is fucking stupid.
God damn it.
Motherfuckers.
God damn it. Oh. Listen, so that was really, really a poor use of something like that. There's no trash. There's not even one trash pack to fight.
Between that.
Auto sorted for no
down there,
fucking
there's
reason.
not. There's the ones with the chocobos and the bongas is kind of trash.
That one was cool because the red chocobo used Choco Meteor.
Right.
And then flew off. You didn't get to kill it.
But I feel like because of how difficult the mechanics are for pug groups, it feels like it because every wipe is practically the trash before you finally clear it.
So Ryoku's pointing out in the chat, I was in Alliance A, I didn't know this. Alliance B has to swim to get to their switch, and that's why it takes so long.
It doesn't matter how long it takes. It's just a fucking wasted opportunity.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah. They should have had trash packs or something there.
I think at least for that part, while you're split off, like while you're waiting for the other ones to get there, like you should be fighting trash, something.
Yeah.
like as separate parties at least.
Yeah. Why wouldn't they do that anyway?
But I will, like, I know I still haven't played Tactics, so some of it was lost on me, unfortunately. But I got really excited going down into the waterways. I was like waiting for Ash to show up.
You know, and
that's where you meet Ash for the first time.
I have to admit that yes, I don't get all of the Tactics references because that game makes me want to put a fucking bullet in my brain. But the FF12 references were nice. The Ivalice references, like having kind of a direct one-to-one Dalmasca in FF14 was kind of cool. And the consequence, like the way that like Ivalice is now actually a place in Hydaelyn is, I think, probably its strongest aspect, right? Like, I think that is the biggest asset that this raid brings to the table because it brings with it a lot of possibilities. I think the thing that we had said was that, we just don't want it to not
exist.
We don't want to go to a made up fucking place.
Exactly. It adds to the world, it adds to the lore. When we first started playing this game, it's just say Orzia. Like, your entire world basically just consists of these 3 nations, right? And then we get to add Ishgard into it, so it seems a little bit bigger. Now they've added a whole new continent where like Doma and Hingashe and stuff are, and now throwing Ivalice into it and Garlemald. Like, this is actually starting to feel like a fully fleshed out world.
Yes.
And it has the potential to introduce more politics, like the fact that they actually reference that the Dalmascan rebellion is rising up and that there are other rebellions around the world that stuff is happening. Like this actually makes your game feel alive, way more fucking alive than Lords of Verminion or Adventuring Squadrons.
Well, and that's kind of thing is this area now fills in a portion of the map, unlike what Omega did, where it's just like that little spot outside town, you get teleported into the ether effectively,
right,
and you're in this virtual realm, and it's like, all right, but that doesn't add anything to this world that this exists.
Right.
This is a literal part of the map that we now have context for.
Right.
And adds so much like lore speculation and stuff.
And history and attachment too.
Right.
The fact that there's history and attachment to to these places, that it feels more tangible than just a reference. Like even the Crystal Tower, we kind of knew, like, it's not the same Crystal Tower from 3, right? Like,
you mean 4?
It's just heavily influenced. It's from 3.
Yeah, that's from 3. He's doing it to piss off Juxta. But like we knew that it was a reference, but not necessarily the actual literal same Crystal Tower.
Right.
And that may be that same method of thinking may be applicable here, but the fact that it's a question is I think the fun part. Like, over the next 3
installations.
Or the next 2 that we get. That's going to be a central theme that I think now everyone is going to be much more tuned into. Like, where exactly are we? I want to go back and take a look more at, like, some of the desert set pieces that you start out in, because there was a lot of stuff outside of Dalmasca from 12 that you would think that may have some sort of place there. Like, I almost kind of want to go back to 12 and do a one-to-one comparison of the 2 zones.
That would actually be fun.
Well, this actually, technically, it's the raid that's added the most sort of like history in lore-wise. I mean, obviously, Binding Coil of Bahamut affected the actual,
storyline
and chain of events, most directly. But
Ozma stuff was pretty lore-y.
You're right. Ozma too. Yeah,
but,
they were very clever with that.
Look at all of Alexander was all self-contained. Omega, so far and probably going forward, is going to be very self-contained.
Right.
And Void Ark was on a ship, and then yes, we got to see the ruins where Ozma was. That was a great one. That's still to date maybe one of my favorite raids as far as like the actual design and stuff goes. And then we got the Lost City. Whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, Hero points out, Crystal Tower gave us so much Allegan background. It did. It was very strong.
Yeah.
And that was good. But those are always the best things that expand on the world that we already have.
Yes.
It's not like there does come a time where your game gets to the point, it's like, all right, maybe we need some new zones or some new places to expand out. But Eorzea is not there. Eorzea has so much of that map still shrouded, so much of its history still shrouded. We need that explanation. We need that context.
And that I think has, going into this was one of the big, the big points is that, look, if we're just being shoved off into a place that doesn't exist, like there's so much more of this world. What are you going to cram that into the next 7 zones that you put out with the next expansion?
The reason that this game, I think that we applaud this game for its story design and its narrative is, again, from expansion to expansion, everything builds on it, right? So when we care about things, none of that goes to waste like our gear does when the next patch comes out. But when something comes out that we do it and then that's it, it's over with, it's done with, we're never looking back on it, a.k.a. Alexander, a.k.a. Omega, that doesn't have the same lasting impression. It's like watching a fucking TV show where they keep resetting the timeline every fucking season.
Yeah, Square Enix did themselves, by the way, just so much like goodwill for me by not having like us meet Vaughn or Balthier or any of them.
Yet.
I know yet, but here's the point. They didn't yet.
Yeah.
And even if we are just kind of waiting on it, you know what? For right now, they did good.
But keep in mind that even the Ramza and Elma we have are not the same Ramza and Elma, even though they look the same. So I feel like even if we had someone who was similar to Van and Balthier, they're not going to be same.
And if the story of FF12 holds true, it would actually make sense that some people would name their kids after that. They'd be great heroes.
Yeah.
That absolutely would fit. I just don't want those characters.
One of the things that I really appreciated about them using Espers as the boss is that these bosses feel like they should have been there, right? Because the royal family would have had all the Aurasites or the Nethethites that each of these Espers were in. So if this place was destroyed and the Nethicite or Auracite or whatever it is that we're fucking using was there, that's why they would inhabit this place now, right? I mean, they're not just some random ass fucking giant spider that happens to be there.
And it also gives good context as to why maybe Garlemald decided to wipe them out, or to at least, subjugate them. Like, they hate primals.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, it seems like a pretty big oversight by the Garlean Empire to not, secure the Auracite after taking them over, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, doesn't
they might not have known much about what they had
Maybe they don't.
Possible.
Maybe they don't. But, I mean, like, it does seem like, wouldn't you want to lock that shit down pretty quickly?
Well, and again, could it be that it was lost within the rubble somewhere, and I don't know how. I don't know how
I'm
the
sure
Espers...
they were hit by a calamity of some sort, and that's why the desert has kind of buried a lot of it, and then the Bonga have kind of come in as just kind of like raiding and looting what's left.
I mean, I guess maybe.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't exactly know how Espers or the Nethicite stuff works, but if they're spirit soul thing and sort of like come out whenever they want, they might have just started haunting the ruins or whatever.
Well, and we know that Garleans have difficulty with anything that manipulates Aether.
That is true.
So maybe they can't handle the Nethicite.
Yeah, anything magic related is kind of beyond them.
They're pretty shitty with it, so maybe they can't handle the Nethicite.
Was there a specific like non-magic using like race or anything in FF12? Because it's weird, like now it's sort of like you want to go back and play. At least I do. I want to go back and play FF12 to see if there's anything that I can pick up on that I didn't.
Out, so it's
I know. I've played a little bit into the game, and I don't really think that they touched on whether or not anything. Obviously, Viera are like super attuned to what the Aether would be,
right?
But I don't think that they ever, one way or another, say that any one particular race cannot use it.
Yeah, I can't recall it.
Like Seek and Bonga are pretty unremarkable. But I don't know if they can't use it.
They still can use magic, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. What about the judges? I mean, can the judges use? Dude, it's been that long. It's been that long since I played 12.
I mean, but Bosch was originally a judge.
That's true.
He could use magic.
That's true.
Yep,
You're right.
He was.
You're right. Anyway, give us a